Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, dear friends and colleagues around the world, and greetings from Sharm el-Sheikh in Egypt. My name is Konstantinos Macheras. I started 10 years ago working for a Greek civil society organization called Organization Earth, and through this work I'm today the president of the Hellenic Platform for Development, through which I represent European coalitions at the Global Council of GCAP. The Global Call to Action Against Poverty, or otherwise GCAP, supports people in their struggles for justice and brings individuals and organizations together to challenge the institutions and the processes that perpetuate poverty and inequalities. We are a global network of over 11,000 civil society organizations organized in 58 national coalitions and in constituency groups of women, youth, and socially excluded people. Together, we defend and promote human rights, gender justice, social justice, climate justice, and the security needed for the dignity and peace of all. Today, we are at COP27 in Egypt to defend human rights and to make sure that the desperately needed green transition is also a just transition. And at the moment, I will read the statement prepared collectively from GCAP members around the world before I also give the floor to my colleagues from the different coalitions around the world. 7 years after the adoption of the Sustainable Development Goals and 7 years after the promising commitments made at COP21 in Paris, the visionary promise of climate justice, social justice, and a fair, rights-based, equitable, and ecologically just world for all appears more remote than ever, despite the hard work and best efforts of civil society and dedicated activists across the globe. The political, financial, economic, and social architecture, as well as individuals who lead these systems, is failing us. The climate crisis and the interrelated devastating consequences such as rising food and energy prices, loss of livelihoods, environmental degradation, war, and critical gaps in healthcare, including inequalities in the fight against COVID-19, are pushing excluded people to the margins and making our planet uninhabitable, and all are highly interconnected problems demanding solutions. At the same time, solutions exist and are plentiful. Financing loss and damage is a key demand on this COP, since there is no adaptation to loss and damage, and it comes down to a question of political willingness. Other solutions talk about the very local level and are community-based, which were the outcome of the grassroots consultative processes, and they focus on designing and implementing adaptation and mitigation measures, such as how to avoid and reduce erosion using grazing techniques as described in a study published by GCAP's Social Justice Task Force, looking at the community discriminated on work and descent based in Mauritania. The challenges as well as the proposed solutions are the outcomes of a grassroots bottom-up process which saw national people's assemblies in 27 countries and 7 regions take place under GCAP's leadership. The outcome of each National Assembly led and fed the program and outcomes of the Global People's Assembly, which took place during the Global Week of Action this September. And so more than 1,000 participants from 127 countries engaged in building the basis for this statement that we are delivering today. Further outcomes include the recognition that rising food and energy prices, loss of livelihoods, and critical gaps in healthcare have been exacerbated by austerity programs, the lack of universal social protection, war and violence, and the deterioration of civil space in many parts of the world, especially in developing countries. Now, 1.3 billion people live in absent, multidimensional, and preventable poverty, with almost half of them children and youth. Our demands and recommendation to the leaders at this COP in Egypt: meet and exceed the Paris Climate Accords. All countries must take immediate steps to reduce their emissions, commensurate with the Paris Agreement goal of limiting global warming to no more than 1.5 degrees and in proportion to their historical and current emissions. Phase out all fossil fuel subsidies by 2024 and rapidly increase support for renewable energy. At COP27, rich countries must meet their commitments to provide at least $100 billion annually for climate financing, while also acknowledging the historical responsibility as the primary source of greenhouse gas emissions and committing to ambitious post-2024 funding targets. These resources, and this is the most important aspect, must be provided as grants, not debt-inducing loans. The financial targets must include a focus on locally led adaptation so that a higher proportion of climate finances reaches local communities. Fully implement environmental rights and call on the UN to develop the means to implement the rights to a clean, healthy and sustainable environment at the national, regional and global levels. We further support governmental and non-governmental efforts to codify the crime of ecocide as part of the Rome Statute of the International Criminal Court. We call on governments to work together with indigenous groups and to learn from their care of the planet. Their perspectives are needed to overcome capitalistic systems and to nurture better dynamics of local production and consumption. Finally, we therefore call on all world leaders in this COP27 to engage in rights-based and people-centered actions to help poor and vulnerable groups in the region meet the challenges of climate adaptation and to mitigate related losses and damages. We especially commend the example of Denmark, who is the first country to pledge loss and damage finance as we speak during the COP. And with this, I would like to introduce my colleagues from GCAP around the world, and I'm going to be starting with the Executive Director of the NGO Jeune Verte, Esso Pedesi, who is an influential actor in the associative world. He represents the GCAP network in Togo, with which he has conducted several advocacy activities. He's a lover of sports and the environment, and so it's a very great pleasure to welcome you in our panel.
Thank you, Mr. Johan. Yeah. Talking about adaptation is talking about climate change. Climate justice is a priority action of our NGO. It is a feat that we do at the local, national, and international level. At the local level, we mobilize local authorities to integrate the climate aspect in their planning document. It is a document that priorities development projects at the local level. So, we encourage the authorities to integrate the climate in the elaboration and the implementation of the planning documents. To date, we have mobilized more than 25 communities in Togo. We organize large mobilization of young people through the Youth Conference on Climate Change, which mobilized hundreds of young people in Africa to reflect the climate emergency. Before COP27, we conducted a consultation that results in recommendation for climate justice that I will read to you. Climate change is a clear threat to the planet. It threatens our lives, our families, and our future. Aware of the urgency, we, the young Togolese young who participated in the COP 27, we are already facing the effects of climate change. Our communities are already suffering from a lack of drinking water. Our population have late access to education, and many remain very vulnerable to climate change. Wage loss and heavy damage are recorded after each disaster, and thousands of lives decimated. Our planet are empty due to drought
For the dignity
and floods. In short, our future is in danger,
in the fight
and
against
we demand that
COVID-19 are
something
put
to do here and now. The youth of the world are ready to act, and we demand firm commitments from all governments around the world. The time for talk is over. The time for action is now. The challenge may seem insurmountable, but as actor, as youth, our generation is ready to collaborate in this cause. We commit to change our personal life skills to place the common good above our individual desires and current lifestyles. We commit to education ourselves, empowerment ourselves, and help our communities to be climate resilient. We commit to actively participate and cooperate with all generations and government in the fight against climate change. Regarding that our efforts alone will not be enough, we expect our lead and fellow citizens to work together interactively for social development. Thus, unanimously and with one voice. One, we call on the government of industrializing countries to contribute more through their financial and technological support to climate resilient and developing countries. Thus, the reduction ambition of industrialized countries be revised, updated, and that the various commitments contained in the determined contribution of country be respected. Two, we want cities to be well designed and sustainable with clean water, plenty of green space, and efficient transportation network. Government must take more proactive measures to prevent and control urban growth and strengthen rural communities by creating sustainable job, quality education, and entertainment. I can continue? Yeah. So, we expect not only government, but also all government actors to invest in sustainable infrastructure in transport, renewable energy, and housing. We call for a universal market where carbon trading should be done, a market where all transactions will be taxed. We also call for the creation of an engineers fund. For an example, each individual can contribute up to 30 CFA per month to finance climate resilience efforts. Thank you.
And thank you so much, Cesar. We know about the great work you've been doing for climate justice in Tongo, but I also keep what you said here now. We need solutions from our leaders today. And I will pass to my next colleague, dear Kenneth Nana Amoentek, who is the Executive Director of the ABBB Nostoma Foundation and GCAP Ghana Coordinator, a policy advisor in developmental with local community that focuses on sustainable development related issues. He has been involved in capacity and policy support provided to civil society organizations while working closely with policymakers, and he is responsible for many local SDG networks in Ghana. He works in empowerment and developmental education, climate change, education, sustainable development, and human rights-based building. At the same time, he is also board member of the Ghana Alliance for Clean Cooking, the International and Climate Action Network in West Africa. Please, dear Kenneth, a few of your insights, as I know you are in the negotiations for the loss and damage, which is the actual topic that we need to hear more after we leave Egypt. Thank you.
Thank you very much for this opportunity. At GCAP, we believe in justice, and loss and damage is justice for the local community. And so it's opportunity that we are here showcase how climate change have affected the vulnerability of those communities who have lost their livelihood, who have lost their source of being because of effects of climate change. And so this is a time that we are calling for justice, for Africa, we emit between 4 to 8%, and we bear the consequences of the effects of climate change. So in this COP, we are calling for justice. In this course, we are calling for financing for climate change. We are not calling for loan. We are calling for grant, because the very communities are really suffer a lot. So this is our little appeal to leaders, that they take leadership and make sure justice is being done for those poor communities. Thank you.
And I thank you, Kenneth. So as the final word of today's press conference, where we were really honored to have you with us, and to the colleagues, friends, and activists around the world participate through online media, let me just say that finally it's obvious to everybody that the work we're doing about the climate is about humans. It's about how humanity is going to continue, by nobody left in behind. So with this word, I urge you to get closer to global, to GCAP. You can find us at www.gcap.global. So together in the next year, we can create more people assemblies, so we can bring the voice of the people to the leaders' discussions. Thank you so much, and let's have a great COP where we can all work together.